The Dodgers were down 5-0 after a few innings, and then they were up 8-5, and they never relinquished that lead. It was a big win on the wraparound game in San Diego, series win over the Padres. Tony Gonsolin got lucky that the offense helped him out, but does he have a spot left in this Dodger rotation? And why is that? Because Clayton Kershaw is coming back. There's a lot to get into, so let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And remember to become an everydayer and listen every single day. And if you can't do that, or if you want help doing that, I should say, you should subscribe in each of those places, wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. If this is your first time listening or watching, I'm Vince Samperio, joined by my co-host, Jeff Snider, and we're both lifelong Dodger fans that have spent time covering the team in the past. We've both been in the clubhouse, been in the locker room, been to spring training as media, but we're not quite insiders. We're just here to bring you what we think is a smart fans perspective on our boys in blue and keeping that perspective, maybe a little bit more positive than some of you might keep it. But that's what we're here for. We're here to balance you out. So remember, you can subscribe wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. I'm rambling, but the Dodgers won, Jeff. The Dodgers won. They were down 5-0, and it looked like a game that one of those where you were already saying in your head, maybe. I'm glad they at least won 2 already, so they're at the very worst. They're going to split the series. But then the Dodgers offense exploded for 8 runs in 1 inning, ended up tacking on 5 runs a couple innings later, and ended up putting up 13 to the Padres 7, ended up getting a win. Tony Gonsolin ended up going 6 innings, even though after 3 innings he had given up 5 runs already. We'll talk about him in the next segment. But yeah, Jeff, this was one where the Dodger offense went to work and helped them out. And this is, kind of what we've seen from them at times over the last couple months, and some that the offense can do, which is bail out the pitching when it's not that great.
Yeah, and honestly, the fact that the Dodgers are in first place, second best record in the National League, despite having, pretty terrible starting pitching most of the season and a terrible bullpen for half of the season, is pretty remarkable. Shows you how good this offense is. This offense is better than last year's on the team that won 111 games. And so it was really impressive. In that 4th inning, Will Smith made the 1st and 3rd outs for the Dodgers, which is, like I said on Twitter, that's a bad thing for Will Smith, but a good thing for the team. Anytime the same guy makes 2 outs in 1 inning, it was probably a pretty good inning. And, not quite as good as hitting 2 grand slams in 1 inning, I guess, but we'll take it. The Dodgers put up an 8 spot. It was their highest scoring inning of the season. And the big blow was the grand slam by Mookie Betts, where Mookie Betts doesn't swing on 3-0 counts very often. I saw Eric Stevens said it's only the 12th time in Mookie's career that he's swung on 3-0. Maybe in his Dodgers time. Anyway, whether it's, even if it was only the 12th time this year, that would be not very many. Mookie doesn't swing at 3-0 pitches. And it's the first time he's gotten a hit on a 3-0 pitch. And this was a big hit. He got a pitch right down the middle. We'll probably talk in a second about Seth Lugo's comments after the game about the Dodgers knowing what was coming. Well, you didn't need to know what was coming when you get a fastball right down the middle on a 3-0 count. That is the definition of you teach kids in Little League. Dead red. What does that mean? It means you pick a little tiny spot that if the pitch is right there, I'm going to swing as hard as I can at it. And if it's anywhere else, I'm not going to swing. And Mookie Betts picked one spot, and it was right there, and he hit it over the wall for a grand slam. Dodgers' 11th grand slam of the season. It was a huge hit for Mookie. There was only 1 out and bases loaded, and so the Dodgers already scored 4 runs, pulled within 5-4. They had already totally snatched back momentum in the game, but that grand slam just, it's kind of funny. Even though the Padres had been up 5-0, when the Dodgers ended up by 3 runs at that inning, you could tell that the game was over as far as the Padres are concerned. Like, they kept trying, but that was the death blow especially when Gonsolin came out and got a 1-2-3 inning next, or I think it was 1-2-3. It was a quick inning anyway, which is exactly what you want after scoring 8 runs. It was a huge inning by the offense.
And you look at how that, I mean, it was capped off by the grand slam, but obviously they got the runs before that. And it's, it was one of those where they just kept hitting the ball. Freddie Freeman singled, Muncy walked, Peralta doubled, Hayward doubled, Kike walked, Outman singled, Rojas, a little flare bloop single that fell in out there in the Bermuda Triangle. And then Mookie hits a slam. And then a couple innings later, they add on to it. Kike homered, first homer back with the Dodgers. Outman walked, Rojas doubled. Freddie Freeman was intentionally walked. Will Smith added an RBI single. Max Muncy added a run-scoring double. Peralta hit a sac fly. So, all of that with just 2 home runs. Obviously, the 1 home run was a grand slam, so that was beneficial. But they did it by stringing hits together, which is how you win against good teams, especially, when we talk about October. That's home runs are the best way to score. But if you can string some hits together, you're more likely to score and be successful in October. So that was good to see. But yeah, after the game, Seth Lugo had some comment. They asked him, one reporter just straight up asked him, like, do you feel like the Dodgers knew what was coming? He said, yeah. They kind of asked him to elaborate. And he said that, when he came back in after he was pulled out, that he was looking at I don't know if someone showed him or he was looking at his own video, whatever the case was. And I don't remember the exact wording, but basically alluded to him seeing something that he was giving away what he was throwing. I don't know if it was with runners on base and signs, or a tail from behind, at second base. I don't know if it was a tail from wherever you were standing, but either way, apparently the Dodgers picked it up if that was the case. And it did look like they knew what he was throwing for a while there in that inning. So,
yeah, and maybe they did. Although, they scored 5 runs a couple innings later with Lugo not in the game. So maybe that guy was tipping pitches too. James Outman was 4 for 4. Maybe everybody who threw a ball to James Outman was tipping pitches today. Yeah, it is important to note. And I assume that most of our listeners understand baseball well enough to know this, but I know we do have some beginners here. So just to clarify, stealing signs is not against the rule. First of all, Lugo's not saying they were stealing signs. He said, he's implying that he was tipping pitches, and sometimes tipping pitches is something that a hitter can see. If you flare your glove when you're pushing in hard to get your split finger, that's why most guys who throw a split finger pitch will start when they're taking the sign. They'll start already with the split finger grip, so that then it's easier to take this to undo the split grip than to put it in the glove, so that the batter can't see the glove moving or see the arm muscles tensing or whatever. And so there's things a hitter can pick up on. Sometimes it's just as simple as leaving your glove open when you're holding the ball in. And so a guy on second base can see right into your glove and see how you're holding the ball and send it that way. Am I getting choppy again? My dadgum internet. Sorry, listeners. I'm doing my best. So there's a lot of ways a pitcher can tip pitches. And if a runner is on second base and he sees a sign or like a pitcher tipping and he motions to, sometimes it's as simple as they'll say, if I put my hand on my knee in my lead off second base, then I know it's a curveball. And if I don't, then I know it's there's little things. All that's totally legal. And it's totally different than what the Astros were doing in 2017, which was actually using technology to send in signs from people who weren't part of the game. It's one thing if the players on the field pick things up. Yeah, what the Astros did was people not on the field picking things up. And that's what teams don't know to guard against, because it's against the rules to cheat like that. So anyway, if that was the case, good on the Dodgers. But like I said, Mookie Betts didn't need any pitch tipping. It probably helped that he doesn't swing at many 3-0 pitches, because Lugo probably felt safe. I'm down 3-0. I'm just going to get one over, get back in the count. And instead he got one over. And as Don Trail would say, Mookie sent it to the people.
Yeah. And, it would make sense if he was tipping that they caught it second time through the lineup, and that's when they got to him, because, it might take a little while for him to show it. Lugo kind of added that they asked him, like, how does that happen, or how do you not notice it? And he says, when you're focusing too much on executing pitches, sometimes you forget about the other stuff. So, with a lineup like the Dodgers lineup, he does have to, kind of set that focus in. And apparently, that might have taken away from some other stuff. But either way, Dodgers, like I said, their offense is good, even if the other pitcher's not tipping pitches. And they were still good on this day, because they still put up a lot more runs before now, or after that. And like you said, 3-0 pitch, it's coming. So
Yep.
Tony Gonsolin was a starter. We're not sure if he's going to be the starter the next time through the rotation. We'll talk about that. That's what's coming up. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. BetterHelp. This episode is brought to you and sponsored by BetterHelp. If you've ever had a time in life that's tough, and life is tough, and it's not always clear, how you're going to be able to move forward, whether it's, a big change in your life, a loss in your life, just lack of motivation, whatever it is, a lot of people are still reeling from pandemic. There's a lot going on in your life. And if you need some help, you can check out some therapy, because if you've benefited from therapy, or if you think you could benefit from therapy, BetterHelp is here for you, because whether or not you've been in therapy before, BetterHelp can help you out because they are convenient. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's flexible, suited to your schedule. Like I mentioned, convenient. All you got to do is fill out a questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. You can make it suited to your schedule whenever you want to get it in, and talk through what you need to talk through. So let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening every day. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Remember, if you are not able to watch the Dodger game on TV or your phone or iPad or whatever, but you still want to listen, you can do so with SiriusXM or the SXM app. All you got to do is search Dodgers. You can get the home broadcast for any game. Dodgers are in Arizona the next 2 nights, so if you're not able to watch, SiriusXM, SXM app, search Dodgers, and you can listen. All right, Jeff, let's talk about Tony Gonsolin, who, as we mentioned, gave up those 5 runs in the 3rd inning and looked like he might have been tipping pitches, because there was a string of like 10, 15 pitches where everything was getting crushed by the Padres. It seemed like it was going to be one of those games where Gonsolin was going to give the Dodgers not a lot of innings, and they were going to have to burn into the bullpen. But thankfully, the Dodgers offense did score those 8 runs. And then ended up picking up 5 more runs before Gonsolin's day ended. He ended up giving the Dodgers 6 innings, which was beneficial. But again, he did give up 6 runs in those 6 innings and has now continued this string of tough starts for a while now. His ERA is in the 7s over the last, I believe, 10-plus starts. Not good. The Dodgers are getting Clayton Kershaw back. So, that's kind of – we're going to talk about him specifically in the next segment. But, kind of what the idea is that they're going to need a spot in the rotation, and Tony Gonsolin's spot might be it. And then after the game, Dave Roberts and Tony Gonsolin both again with the cryptic words and sayings and phrases about that Gonsolin's not all right physically. They won't say what it is. Gonsolin wouldn't say what it is. And, maybe he's going to find himself on the injured list, although I don't think they do that right now with Grove already on there. But Pepio's due back. There's a lot to talk about with starting pitching, but I guess we'll focus on Gonsolin for right now.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We were talking with our buddy Gavin DeLuhosh, who listens to the show. We were tweeting with him during the game about Gonsolin's splits, and the first time he faces a batter, the first time through the order in a start, opposing hitters have a 457 OPS. It's awesome. Like that is 40 TOPS plus of 41. Meaning that, SOPS plus, that's the one we care about, of 27. So that means that he is 73% better than league average the first time through the order. Second time through, his SOPS plus is 115 because opposing hitters have an 802 OPS. So it's like first time through, hitters are a little bit better than Austin Barnes this year, but a lot worse than, think of a bad hitter. That's about what hitters hit off Gonsolin the first time through the order. And then the second time through, it's roughly, Will Smith-ish. Maybe not quite that good, but pretty darn good. That's the difference the second time through, so everything about that is screaming relief pitcher, 2 or 3 innings tops. Basically, don't let Gonsolin face more than 9 hitters in a game. Don't let anybody see him twice in one game. And when we talk about Ryan Yarbrough being available now for the rotation, you mentioned Pepiot, obviously is ready to come back whenever. He's off the IL now. He's just in the minors, I think. And they just sent Emmett Sheehan back to the minors, which they could call him back up if Gonsolin did go on the injured list. But with Kershaw coming back this week, which we're going to talk about more in the next segment, it does, Gonsolin's spot, I feel like today, whatever day we are, Monday was his chance to say, hey, I still deserve a spot in this rotation. And instead he gave up 6 runs in 6 innings. It was awesome that he was able to throw 3 more innings after the implosion. But it doesn't change the fact that there was the implosion and that most of this season he's been bad. And even if it is a physical issue, great. Maybe we're not worried about him long-term. Maybe we expect him to be just fine next season. But this year, like it seems pretty clear that the Dodgers can't really afford to have Gonsolin in the rotation anymore. Give Yarbrough that spot. Let Yarbrough try a couple starts and see what he can do, knowing that you do have Pepiot or Sheehan or who's the other one? Gavin Stone. Gavin Stone had a great start in the minors recently. You have those 3 guys available. Michael Grove, if he comes off the IL, we don't know how serious his injury is. There's other options, but it seems to me like Gonsolin has probably made his last start of the season for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and if not his last start, at least his last start that's expected to be a full start, like a normal start. There's a possibility that they could use him in an opener type setting. Although with the guys they have in the rotation, like I said last night, I would like to see Yarbrough just get a normal couple times through the rotation without an opener, unless it's like the Padres do have a lot of righties to start the lineup. Maybe in that type of situation, if it's a team that just has stacked righties, maybe. But if not, I'd rather just see him get normal time in the rotation, see what he can do, and work his way through that. But yeah, for Gonsolin, I mean, it was an implosion of different sorts for him. Usually he gets himself in trouble, and from what we've known the last couple of years is he dances his way out of trouble, getting a lucky double play or a pop up, whatever the case was. This time he did issue 1 walk to start the inning, and then it was home run, single, double, a lot of hard hits that inning. So a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, I think if Roberts has been saying this for almost a couple months now that Gonsolin's not all right, but he's there because we need him. Well, now's the time where you don't necessarily need him right now. And if he does need to take a break to get right, then take that break to get right, because Kershaw's coming back. The rotation will be full if they just throw Yarbrough in there. And then, like you mentioned, Pepiot, Stone, Emmett Sheehan are all there and available. And, at least Sheehan, maybe not right off the bat just because they did want to kind of limit his innings. But again, it would be in a potential bullpen role, which Dave Roberts said they would look at a guy like Sheehan and a guy like Grove, and Grove when he's back, and then possibly Pepiot in a relief type situation. So I think Gonsolin might go on the IL tomorrow and they call up a reliever or somebody else to stay a couple of days, and then whoever comes up, him and Hudson, we'll wait till Kershaw comes back. I know, although they don't have much down there, so it would have to be like Sheehan or Pepiot or Stone, which I don't know if that's what they want to do right now. So maybe he does stick around for a couple of days. I don't know.
Yeah, the only 40-man roster reliever currently in the minor leagues is Victor Gonzalez. Everybody else, the only other, they only have 4 pitchers on the 40-man roster currently in the minors, and it's Gonzalez and then those 3 starters we mentioned: Pepiot, Grove, not Pepiot, Stone, and Sheehan. And so that's why I have a hard time seeing, unless Gonsolin's really hurt. I think it's just shuttle him to the bullpen, doing piggyback starts maybe. And like you said, maybe some of those piggyback starts, he is the opener, whether he's the big spoon or the little spoon in that situation, it doesn't really matter. One other thought I had, Vince, I don't know if you remember this last year, actually our episode on Halloween last year, we talked about how the banning of the shift would affect different pitchers. And I mentioned I had talked to my buddy Mark Simon over at Sports Info Solutions, and he told me that Tony Gonsolin was actually one of the pitchers who had benefited the most in baseball from the shift last year. And when we see the Dodgers last year, they were top 1 or 2 in baseball in defensive runs saved. This year, they're like 18th because a lot of their value came from they were really, really good at shifting. And so I wonder, and I reached out to Mark, I haven't heard back from him yet, but I wonder how much of Gonsolin's struggles this year have to do with the shift being gone and all the things that we talked about last Halloween, worried that it might affect Gonsolin, the shift being gone. Maybe that's what we're seeing here.
It's possible. I don't remember any times off the top of my head where I'm like, oh man, the shift beat him. But again, I don't remember.
It was a surprise to us when we found out that he had been the one who benefited the most, because it didn't jump out at you. Oh yeah, he's getting lucky. He's getting all these. But things.
It made sense because he always had runners on and they didn't score a lot of the time. So you might think like, oh, that correlated at least. But again, I don't. It definitely didn't hurt him yesterday, but it might have hurt him in the past.
Yeah, 7.3 strikeouts per 9. Lowest strikeout rate of his career this year, only 19.4%. Yeah, he needs to get more strikeouts if he's not getting them to hit the ball right at people. So
yeah. So Clayton Kershaw will be back more than likely Thursday, back at home in Dodger Stadium. That's what's coming up. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions apply. Remember, if you want to listen to the home broadcast for any Dodger game, you can do so at SiriusXM or the XSM app. All you got to do is search Dodgers. You can also find Locked On Dodgers on there if you search Locked On Dodgers. All right, Jeff, Clayton Kershaw, Dave Roberts essentially said he's going to be back, and it's looking like Thursday. First game back home at Dodger Stadium against the Rockies. A welcome addition to the rotation for sure, but again, with a little bit of cautious mind of what exactly we're looking for out of Kershaw. He did not go on a rehab assignment, and are we concerned at all? That there's still 2 months before we get to the time where they really need Kershaw.
I assume, because if you talk to Kershaw, he's been fine. He's felt fine. He even said if it wasn't for the MRI, he would have been back a month and a half ago, right after the All-Star break. I guess it wasn't a month and a half ago, but a month ago, basically as soon as he was eligible to come off the IL, he would have been back, if not for the MRI saying that he needed to rest. And so I do think some of this is them trying to moderate his usage, knowing that they need him for October. And I think this timing is, we've got, what do we have? Probably 52 games left, something like that. And so, you figure Kershaw will get 10 more starts in the regular season, 10-ish, and then head on into the postseason, hopefully fresh. I think their goal with this timing is to have him be totally built up and feeling good for October, but not yet, ready for that second break of the season. And it's hard to find that balance, but I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic that I don't think Kershaw's shoulder is ever going to be great again. And that's okay. I don't think it was great the first part of this season, and he was very, very effective. And so if he could be effective for the next 2.5 months, 2.5 to 3 months, I'll take that.
Yeah, it's the whole injuries and everything situation is just always weird, especially when Kershaw's reporting no pain, but they had to shut him down because what the MRI showed, and then Dave Roberts kind of said his shoulder's not perfect, but it's good enough, and it leaves you worrying. But if they're not worried about putting him out there, then I'm gonna take that heed with it and not be concerned that he's out there and be glad that he's back. I am glad that they decided to wait till Thursday till they're back at Dodger Stadium. There's just no reason to subject them to Arizona if they don't need to. Even I was gonna say that heat, but in the stadium it doesn't feel as hot as outside. But either way, yeah, glad Kershaw's coming back. Looking forward to that. It's gonna be a fun weekend at Dodger Stadium. Kershaw's on Thursday, and then all weekend they'll be celebrating Fernando and the retiring of number 34. So should be a good weekend at Dodger Stadium. Some other updates we got about players that are maybe coming back. Walker Buehler threw the bullpen on Friday with assistant pitching coach Connor McGinnis watching. The next step for him, he's expected to face hitters this week in Arizona. Walker Buehler saw September 1 on his target. It doesn't seem like that gels with how he's trending and everyone else is, but if Walker Buehler is pushing for September 1st, and that means he shows up a week or a week and a half later, if everything goes right, that's not bad. Gives the Dodgers some time to kind of figure out what they want to do with him, and if he's able to, live up to the task of helping the Dodgers. And then we haven't heard in a while, Blake Treinen. He's a little bit behind Buehler. He's been throwing bullpen sessions. He's close to facing hitters in some live BP. Obviously, after live BP, it'll probably be rehab assignment, and then maybe joining the Dodgers. So if Buehler's about 3 weeks to 4 weeks away, Treinen maybe 4 to 5 weeks away, that'd be obviously a big boost if he's able to throw like the guy that's been throwing in the past. And then the other one, JP Feyereisen, who we haven't heard about in a while either. He had major shoulder surgery last year, so he's been going through that throwing program. He had a setback recently. They don't know if he's going to be able to pitch this year, and it's one of those where they still have him for next year, so they're taking the long route. If he's not 100%, they're not going to push him to go this year. But yeah, that's positive news on the first two, that the Dodgers could get arms like Walker Buehler and Blake Treinen, at least the possibility of them helping out this season.
Yeah, I get the impression, reading between the lines, that Feyereisen and Treinen are kind of in the same place. They had similar shoulder surgeries at a similar time. I suspect the difference is Treinen is 35 and only under contract for this year, and Feyereisen is 30 and under contract for 3 more years after this year. And so it's like, well, because Brandon Gomes about Feyereisen said he's still in a good place long term. We're just not going to ramp him up if he's just feeling so-so. And I think, the unspoken part, and I'm putting words into Brandon Gomes' mouth here, is, but we'll take a so-so Blake Treinen because we don't care as much about the future for Blake Treinen as we do for Feyereisen. And not in a bad way. I think Treinen would feel the same way. He's 35, and if he has one last chance to come and contribute to a World Series winning team, he's going to want to do it. And Feyereisen, and even though 30 isn't super young, he's only thrown, counting the minor leagues, he's only thrown 448 career innings. So there's not much mileage on his arm. And so he's been very, very good at times, most of the time that he's been in the big leagues. And it's just a matter of getting him healthy. So I think it's more of a priority for the Dodgers, his long-term health, than Treinen's.
Yeah, that makes sense. Last quick note, the Dodgers, there's been a couple of reports that have said that the Dodgers Daniel Kim reported that the Dodgers are on the verge of signing highly touted pitching prospect. Now, I haven't heard his name pronounced, but Hyun Suk Jang. He's a 19-year-old that is going to skip the Korean baseball draft and intends to sign with the major league organization. There's been another report from one of the other Korean reporters that said he's not on the verge, but the Dodgers are one of the teams that are, kind of in the front for him. I believe the guy's touched 99 before. He has a bunch of off-speed pitches. They did trade for some international bonus money the other day, which a bunch of people were saying that maybe, this is the reason for that. So all in all, if that's somebody the Dodgers are looking after, that's a little bit exciting. They haven't had they haven't had like an international prospect in a while, since like Maeda and Ryu and all those guys.
Yeah, and especially one who, if he came over, he would go to the minor leagues. He's coming out of high school. And so when they signed Maeda and Ryu, they both came straight to the big leagues because they had pitched internationally. This would be like a regular guy drafted out of high school, going through that, probably a couple of years before he's ready for the big leagues, but potentially, so it's basically like a first-round draft pick, a top 10 pick probably talent-wise, that they could be signing off the international market. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so we'll keep tabs on that and see if there's any other movement. I don't know if there's a deadline or anything for that, but we'll see what happens. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to listen every day and become an everydayer. That exclusive club of our listeners that listen every single day. You can be part of that. Remember, the home broadcast for every Dodger game is available on SiriusXM or the SXM app. All you got to do is search Dodgers. And you can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. By the way, Twitter is staying Twitter until Elon starts paying us. Twitter's going to stay Twitter. I'm not going to call it X. So you can find us on there. You can find Jeff on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent's91. The DMs are open on those accounts if you need to get a hold of us. You can also get a hold of us via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-LOCK. We're every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car. If you're at home, tell your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.